Let's talk playgrounds. So we're going to be talking about, again, we're going to stick with the theme of going with sort of the three major labs right now. Again, if you have a playground that's a third party, or maybe there's another AI company that you like that has a playground, obviously feel free to use whatever you want. But we're going to be talking really briefly about the OpenAI playground, which is what we're going to be using in this course. Just because again, I think I've mentioned this earlier, but most of you are very familiar with this, with the OpenAI platform. Many of you already have accounts. Many of you already have credits loaded in. So we're just going to try and keep things easy on everybody and use what is most popular just for ease of setup. But again, Anthropic, Google, and many other third-party providers have very excellent playgrounds. But let's talk a little bit about why I think that you should use a playground, what you kind of get out of it. So we mentioned in the chat up lesson, that the biggest problem with using those when you're kind of trying to just tweak prompts and try to really hone them in is that they have sort of that system prompt that's underlying. When you're using something like a playground, that's not going to be in the picture at all. Okay, you actually get to set the prompt yourself, which is why it's so powerful, right? So if I have, my system message here, which is sort of the system level prompt, right? You can see they have sort of the suggested text. If I just say, you are a data analyst, right now, instead of getting, a better example, actually, if I jump over to Anthropic, their playground, which is called Anthropic Workbench, right? And I open up the system prompt here and just put, you are a data analyst. I'll just go ahead and paste that in. The advantage of doing something like this in a playground is I'm not having, that giant system prompt from Claude injected into this like I am with the Claude app. Okay, so again, we talked about this in the previous lesson, but the nice thing there is that you get a little bit more separation. Things are a little bit cleaner and more straightforward, so that when you're testing things and you're trying to really hone that prompt in to just get it just right, it's going to be a little bit easier to test in a playground where you don't have to worry about system prompts from the kind of under the hood that you're not really seeing, which is a little suspect, not super obvious to a lot of people. It's just a little bit cleaner. So you also get a bunch of extra things. We mentioned previously in section 1, right? Temperature. So if you want to try, a model that's a little bit more deterministic, right? We talked about how, we're basically, if we're giving it a prompt like you're a data analyst, we probably don't want it to be super creative. We probably want it to be a little bit more analytical. At a lower temperature is going to be great. The advantage of using a playground is we actually have the opportunity to tweak that parameter. Whereas this, if we were doing this in ChatGPT with 4.0, right, there's no way to tweak temperature. We're using whatever temperature OpenAI decided in ChatGPT they want to use. Whereas in Playground, we get a little bit more control over that. You also get a little bit more control over the maximum tokens. You get a little bit more information. So if I just say, you are a joke bot, and I just say tell a joke, and then I click run. Okay, you can see we get some helpful information in here too. You can see 20T. Okay, so this is T stands for tokens. This was a 20 token input between the system message and my user input here, and then we got 14 tokens back. So this just gives us a little bit more information. You can see we even get the response time. So you're just getting a little bit more information than you would of just kind of like raw details of what the prompt is and the response you got back from the model than you would get from the various AI chat apps, right? And this general theme is pretty consistent across the three major playgrounds. So Anthropics is going to look very similar, right? You're going to have your system prompt. Let's just copy and paste this. We'll see what different jokes we get here. I say a joke about space, please. Right, again, we have a very similar run button. Run that, we get a response here. We can add that to the conversation. Then we could say, tell me a ocean joke. Okay, and we could click run again, get a new joke there. So you can see this is very similar. The UIs obviously differ a little bit, but kind of the principles are the same, which is you have sort of user and assistant alternating messages. You have the ability to change the prompt and customize it. We can click on the model settings, we can change our model, we can adjust the temperature, we can adjust, we can limit the max tokens that we want the model to be able to output, if just in case we want to not have super long outputs. And the same thing goes for Google AI Studio, right? Again, temperature, you can change it. Model, you can change it very easily. Each one of these has some really nice features, which is you can get the code for whatever you're testing, right? So if you're using a playground to test a prompt in the OpenAI playground, and you want to grab the code and use it in whatever app you're working on, so you can finally serve that prompt with users and things like that. It's going to be super easy to do, right? Same for Anthropic, right? They're going to have a Get code button. So this just makes for a really nice testing environment. You can really easily tweak prompts. You can kind of, delete messages and redo them, and maybe, you only tell jokes that are dad jokes. Okay. So then you can test the prompt again without having to go create a new chat or something. It's like a really nice workbench. That's why I actually really like that Anthropic called it theirs workbench. I guess playgrounds it could work too, but it's just a really convenient environment in which you can kind of tweak your different prompts. One caveat with playgrounds that is different than chat apps, right? With the chat apps is you're kind of, you're paying your monthly subscription or whatever, and you pretty much get unlimited tokens or whatever. When it comes to the playgrounds for OpenAI or Anthropic, you're going to be paying with the same credits that you would be using with the API. So you will need to pay with credits. This isn't free. Google's playground and Google's, I should say, Google AI Studio isn't a fully fledged playground. It's kind of like a halfway between the chat app that you would see in Gemini and kind of an actual playground. It's not as fully featured, but the advantage of theirs, even though it's not as feature rich, is it is going to be free. They have free token limits on AI Studio that are pretty generous. They're really trying to get people to use their models right now. So you can take advantage of that, which is perhaps an advantage for those of you who through this course don't want to pay anything. But that's kind of the gist on playgrounds. Again, we're going to be primarily using the OpenAI playground. But again, any of the principles that we're going to be talking about in this course, you can use on any of the chat apps, on any of the playgrounds. The point is that anywhere you can even use it if you want to write your own code and interface with the API. That's totally cool too. The point is we're just talking about how we instruct models. That's what prompt engineering is all about. And whatever interface makes it easy for you to do that, go ahead and do that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about a couple more tools.